I have some very important things to share with you today. Some things about you that I think you need to hear. hmm And I want to bring a very famous doctor into the mix here also, Dr. Seuss. Coming up next on Pastor Bob's Coffee Break. Bob, it's my cup. And I am the only one that can have this out of most of the people that are watching me. Why? Because it's not your name. Get your own cup. But it's true, it's unique for me. And I want to talk about that today. And here's my quote from a very famous guy, Dr. Seuss. He says, "Today you are you. That is truer than true. There is no one alive who is youer than you." It's deep, but it's true. I just rhymed again. So here's the question, dear Pastor Bob. How do you deal with the world the way it is? I wish I could have lived at another time when things were easier and more meaningful. I feel out of place in this world. I do sometimes too. I feel like I know how I wish it was and I know how it is. And I have a choice to do one of two things: to be authentically me, or to try to just cope with it like most other people do. And to be authentic, to be me, to be true to who I believe God made me to be, I need to realize one very important thing. I was born for today. I wasn't born for yesterday. I wasn't born to live 100 years ago or 100 years from now. I was born for this time at this place to be significant right now. And so are you. The most important thing that you and I can do is be authentic today. And to realize that God didn't make a mistake. You know, Psalm 139:16. Love this. You saw me before I was born. Every day of my life was recorded in your book. Every moment was laid out before a single day had passed. Does God have a plan? Well, he has more than a plan. He sees everything, and he said, I'm going to make him or her for this time right now. This is your moment. He didn't make a mistake. And the fact that you're alive and occupying space at this time and at this place is not a coincidence. I love spending time with you. I really do love spending time with you. And I realize that you and I right now are living at a time that is full of turmoil, and it also couldn't be more exciting. Why? Because I have opportunities ahead of me, as do you, to make a difference. Well, the first part in getting through a difficulty like this and saying, man, I wish I was born another time, is to realize that you occupy this space for a very good reason. God made you for this time. Every moment, the Bible says, was laid out before a single day came to pass. And what was laid out? Not just the way you look, not just the way you react or act, not just your countenance, not just your little idiosyncrasies. That's not what it means. It means your purpose, your passions, the things that God has given you to do. He laid them out before a single day started for you. There's a plan for you. You were born for today. So that means that you occupy your space. That space that you're in right now, that house that you're sitting in right now, the chair that you're sitting in right now, if you're sitting in a chair, the car that you're sitting in if you're driving a car, that workplace that you're in if you're at work right now, all of those things are not a coincidence. And yet, some people, dare I say, us, don't always get it right. We don't always see exactly the real things that God has for us. And there are some people that have a mundane life, a mundane job, a mundane existence, and they never get started with those exciting things that God has for them. You say, well, Pastor Bob, I wasn't really born to be significant. Yes, you were. Every one of us. You occupy your spot for a very good reason. Nobody else can do it. God equipped you, just you, to make a great big statement where you're at. You're a possibility exactly where you sit. You're a promise exactly where you sit. God didn't make a mistake. So people ask me, and this is the time when I'm thinking about legacies. My father just died a few days ago. And I'm thinking about his legacy as I'm planning for his memorial service that I will speak at. And gosh, there's so much to share. And I'm kind of having to narrow down the list a little bit because I think his legacy is huge. And it isn't a coincidence. He told me one time that, he met my mom in Bible school, seminary basically. My dad has a degree in theology. And he told me that even though his friends, most of them that he knew before he went to school and were friends at school, people that were from the statewide youth group, and they all decided to go to seminary, and most of them became pastors. He decided not to. And he told me the reason, and I'll quote him. He said, I decided to raise a family of thoroughbreds instead. Thoroughbreds. It's the name for horses, but the best horse. The horses you train and the horses that you bring up in just the right way so that you're proud of them and they stand strong and they make a difference. Thoroughbreds. And he said, I decided to raise a family of thoroughbreds instead. His words. Never forgotten that. That was a long time ago that he told me that. And he did, I look at my siblings, and I have two brothers that are alive, and both of them are significant. They're amazing people. And I see that God has equipped all of us for specifically what we do, and we're all very different. And my dad raised us all very differently. I remember he used to quote, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's older, he'll not depart from it. And, the verse, and we were talking, Chris and Donovan talking about keeping verses in context. That one's taken out of context a lot, but what it means is basically original language, if you were to interpret it and translate it a little better, train up a child in the way that he's bending. In other words, train him up in what he's becoming. Well, I'm not a farmer. I was raised on a farm. I know how to drive a tractor and a truck and do farm stuff. I've done it. But it's not my passion. It wasn't my heart. And from early teenage years and probably before, I had a dream. When I was 15, I feel like God called me to begin to help to pioneer Christian rock and roll that didn't even exist at that point. And so I had that dream, and I shared it with my parents. I won't tell you the whole story, but my dad always encouraged me in it. And while a lot of my friends' farmers were encouraging them to take over the family farm, my dad always knew how I was bending. He did that with my brothers. How are they bending? What are they becoming? And he raised them accordingly. Very smart, wasn't it? But you see, that's what it takes. So these days when I'm thinking about legacy and his phenomenal legacy, and as people are writing in, they have some things in common, almost every one of them. He was the most honest, the most authentic, and one of the kindest men I've ever known. It's awesome, and I'm so glad that people were able to meet him, those that did. But what is my legacy? And I think about this these days. What is my legacy? What do I want to leave? What kind of imprint do I want to have had? I occupy this space for a reason. Have I done all the right things as I occupy it? And, I've done so many things in my life, but have I done all the right things? And I look back and I don't have many regrets at all. And no big ones. Just a few things I would have done maybe a little differently. So would we all. But I've decided that when I leave, I want the hole that I leave to be huge. I want people to be able to say, we really miss him. We really miss what he did. We miss his passion. We miss the person of God that he was. Now, is that pride? No. It just means that as I live out my passion, as I live out what God has created me to do and given me to fulfill on this earth, that as I become significant to other people because of that, I leave a bigger and bigger hole. And the hole that I leave, I want to be huge. And I hope you do too. You see, God has created all of us to be significant. You are significant. Every one of us has a place here. We weren't born at the wrong time, the wrong place, to the wrong family, etc., etc. We were born for this time right now. Does God know what he's doing with you? He planned it before one of your days even came to be. That's what we just read, Psalm 139. So what does that mean for you and I? Well, it means that no matter how mundane you feel like your life is right now, or my life, it means that I can begin to live up to God's potential for me. I can begin to, as we've been saying, dream big, because God's dreaming bigger for me. I can realize that nothing can get in my way because God has a plan for my life. And as we're saying this month, every problem is an opportunity. Why? Because God has a plan. Well, that's the good news. And to get back to our good doctor, Dr. Seuss, today you are you. That is truer than true. There is no one alive who is youer than you. And by the way, you are blessed. So go out and be a blessing.